Yeah, it's a Audio Technica. I do a lot of music stuff, so hopefully
What,
it
are you
sounds
singing
okay
in
for
that
you.
mic?
Have in the past, yes. Although I sing all the time, but I usually use a better mic. But this is my USB one. So
Well, why
I
aren't you
gotta.
using the better mic for the podcast?
To be honest, I'm trying to. I have my whole rig out here. I'm like, okay, how do I hook that up to my work computer versus my studio computer? And that's where it's at. So
Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
What are you singing?
Interestingly, I've been recording music my whole life. Check it out on Spotify. I'm about to release another song.
An album? You almost said album. You releasing albums?
We got some albums out there, but I'm doing more singles now since I release it when I have time, and so the singles are more readily available. But actually, we have a gig this weekend, so that's what we do for fun. And
What kind of music?
Our latest incantation live is an acoustic trio. Most places love cover songs, but we don't like to play covers like as they are. So we'll create mashups or different versions of them, and people seem to love it. So that's
Nice. What are we going to talk about today? Do we know?
well, we can talk about AI. We can talk about what we think about it, or we can talk about being in the industry for years, or Scotch versus bourbon. Either one.
Bourbon's better. Bourbon's better.
There you go.
I just don't got a taste for Scotch. I just can't. I've tried. There are actually some Scotch, Macallan 15 or whatever. There's some Scotches that I can have. Anyway, why don't we start and we'll just get going then.
All right, sounds good.
I am here with Greg Hintermeister. Hintermeister, how did I do? Is that pretty good?
That's exactly
pronunciation?
Good job.
I feel like that's is it very German? Seems very
It's
German.
very German. It's actually, it's Swiss German. Bern, Switzerland. Actually, we have a heraldic from 1385 as the first known instance of Hintermeister. So we go back a ways.
I feel like I got to start talking like Arnold with a Hintermeister. Hi, I'm here with Greg Hintermeister.
Right. That works.
Look, Greg is a member of my team. Like he's one of the leaders of IBM, the Hybrid Cloud Solutions team. And essentially those are big words for like he takes some of the most hairiest, complex solutions and finds customer value. He's a master inventor. I think he's got like over 106 patents or something crazy like that. Expertise in hybrid cloud, distributed cloud, modernization, data and AI, high availability, backup. I don't know. I could keep going, but I'm going to stop there. Hey, Greg, we're going to have fun time today. I thought we just like wing it because I don't have much of a plan. Well, I never have much of a plan, but really today I don't have any plans other than just to have a chat. So tell me about yourself. I now know that you're a huge musician. I always saw the guitars in the background.
Yeah.
But you got 4, but you can't see mine. I got 3 because my daughter stole one of mine, or it would have been 4. You might have 5. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I got a picture of all my collection of my family photo of 12.
Oh, wow.
But I got 5 that I regularly use, and the other ones are, squirreled away for safety.
So you do these gigs for money?
We do them for money, not a livable wage yet, but we love it. My wife and I sing. We have a great bass player, and we play all kinds of mashups that we've customized, and then we throw some things on Spotify too that are different styles.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your history? What's your skill set? What you started from, and how did you land to the role you are in today?
Yeah, so I guess to start, my whole life I've had some guitars. I've had a need to be creative. And I also love helping others. And so actually it helped being involved in IBM for all these years, 32 years, has really fueled that creativity and the ability to help people. Started out as a tester, went into development, spent a long time in design. I just loved design, user experience, design lead, award-winning, the whole thing. One note of interest, we released what we think is one of the first mobile apps in October 2000 for systems management, to do over 100, manage over 100 systems. Moved to product management, enablement, but finally fell into a highly technical role that kind of brought me here, designing complex solutions for complex problems. And as you mentioned, I got 109 now issued US patents, which is another wonderful form of creativity. I love it.
So your core is design. That's where you came from?
My education is computer science. I call myself an odd duck many times because the combination of this creative and technical really helps in design. You can speak both to users' needs and how to deliver it technically. And really that's not changed. Although now, instead of the glass or a mobile device, it's kind of like I have all of IBM as a palette to design with, and that's pretty cool, I think.
Oh, I think it is cool. Make sure I got this straight. So you started out in design? How many years did you spend in design?
Oh, probably I started as a tester developer for probably 3-4 years when I first started. And then probably was in design for 13 years or so.
13 years.
And that spanned, there was a whole bunch of technology changes. So that was, every year there was a new challenge, which helped the creativity part.
I don't think design is well understood. Could you make a few comments on just the role of design and your thoughts of design today?
Yeah, I've got an old YouTube on this one too. My view of design is how to elegantly solve problems and provide this capability that users really need to solve the problems they're having. Most of the time it involves user experience, a front end, now a web or a mobile app, but it goes far deeper than that. It's what actions can you run? What's the navigation involved to accomplish it? What interfaces are you using? And we'll talk about AI. There is virtually no traditional design interface in an AI interaction. So how do you do that? And then what I found is, well, what about the availability of it? A lot of people focus on the front door and the decorations and make it look pretty, and that's really important. But if it's not reliable or scalable, all the things we've done for 30 years, that makes the whole experience horrible.
Yeah, we could probably spend a whole session on design, but I was with a client today, a partner, and we were talking about it. Now they're a startup, and there's only so many things you can afford when you're doing this bootstrapped.
Yep.
Having said that, when we got into design somehow, and the need for design, and one of the individuals was like, "What do you mean UI?" See, that's a problem. I think design is much more comprehensive, and if you've got a great designer, it's almost like the question is really, can you afford not to have that person on payroll? It's to find the holes in my logic. It's to really expand the solution that I have into a much deeper client value discussion. I mean, I could go on. I'm probably not doing it justice either. I mean, I just don't know how to characterize design in such a way that people really get it.
For a while, I had a whole framework set up to say, most people think of it as the presentation. How does it look? Mm-hmm. But then, that's kind of worthless unless you actually have a proper navigation where you can easily find things. And that's kind of worthless unless when you find the thing easily, it actually does what you want and does what you need and surprises you of how easy it is. And that's kind of worthless if it doesn't have this great startup experience, this onboarding experience, and even an end-of-life experience if you decide to go somewhere else. That really ticks people off. And then none of that really matters unless it is sustainable and reliable and it always works. That doesn't really mention anything about front-end UI. It could be APIs.
How does one go to become a distinguished engineer from the roots of design?
Since I had started in technology and I used design plus tech as an asset, I think, there was a short period of time there was a bump in the road. So I moved away from design, and I found that if I shed the notion of a quote designer, it actually gave me more freedom. So then I was able to dive deep into technology, fully understand whether it's hybrid cloud or AI or whatever, the ability to impact large customers at the same time you're pivoting back and influencing the solutions that we're delivering and building. That was kind of the magic potion for me, to be able to get to a level of distinguished engineer to help clients, to help IBMers, and to help our products improve.
If you're giving guidance or mentorship to someone in the field that wants to get to DE, what is your advice?
Use your curiosity to find things you're passionate about, technology-wise. Learn what the ins and outs of it. Learn who's delivering it, and serve them. Again, bit of an odd duck. I need to help others. I love doing it, but it's also feeds what I do. And I find that if I'm helping a product team gain insight from the field, that product team views it as just gold. It's an amazing asset that they don't get all the time. Those of us in the field don't really appreciate that. Having an expertise on that or many products, being able to share with the client, but then pivot back into a product team, I think that's one of the key ways to do it.
I'm not sure there's a prescription, so that makes it a difficult question. What role were you in when you became DE?
So I was a global role, I guess you'd call it pre-sales, but helping large clients solve big problems with a number of IBM capabilities.
Was there a catalyst that got you recognized? Was there a game changer?
One of the game changers was we had introduced a notion of distributed cloud. So I guess now you'd call it sovereign cloud, where you could bring a managed cloud environment into your data center or anywhere. And that was a very unique thing. So we were able to harness that with a lot of our great software and other capabilities to deliver these solutions that are unique, and they were uniquely solving these hard problems. So it was a mix of getting back into development, helping, but also staying client facing.
Let's talk some technology, and I'm just going to riff on some questions that I have that I know as of late you've been helping me work on. But before I do, in terms of your technical sweet spot, would you call that what? Hybrid cloud, data and AI, automation? What do you think?
I would say it's a mix of hybrid cloud and AI, both of them.
Hybrid cloud and AI. Perfect. That ties right into the question I'm about to ask you. We talk a lot about multi-cloud, cloud modernization, on and on. Well, there's a lot of clients, companies, enterprises that are making that transformation, have been making that transformation. What if you're a company that has a monolithic application, because you've had this out there for some time, right? And I've got a board that's saying, hey, you got to move to cloud. I've got vendors saying, hey, you need to better leverage cloud. I guess, how do you handle a monolithic application?
Yeah, so what the very first thing we'll do is fully understand not just the physical componentry of the application, this monolith, because even monoliths are composed of many, many different parts. We'll also understand what it means strategically for the client. What problems are they trying to solve by using one or many clouds? So I've been working with several clients.
Do you ever tell a client not to move to cloud?
Sometimes, because the whole view of hybrid cloud isn't just marketing. It's what we do. It's what many, many clients do. They're saying, what is the best way for hyperscaling my applications using somebody else's content in different regions? It's a great reason to go to cloud. There are also other reasons, or let's say I've got large data sets and I need to feed applications. If that data set's in a cloud, well, that's a bunch of egress costs. And so you need to think about, well, should I move the data set or should I move the applications there? Well, of course, then you worry about latency. So there's no real perfect design. It's more, what are your priorities? I've got another client that says, well, my priority is helping my customers who are around the world. They need my application in their region because of data sovereignty laws. Okay, that's a great constraint. So back to design, embrace your constraints. If that's one of the constraints, perfect. Now we need the application and at least some of the data in that local region. And how do we do that? Well, let's talk about using various technologies to move the data, to filter the data, to optimize what data is sent to minimize costs, co-locate so it handles the latency, and then back to the monetization question. Do you want your developers to have more frequent development provisioning windows? Well, maybe that's a good way to use some of the cloud native technologies to do that. So there's all kinds of facets involved in that discussion.
So would you break up that monolithic application then into microservices? Is that essentially the solution?
So that's a very rich question.
That's why I asked it.
That's right. So I've had examples where many times the big monolith, deploying one large thing is no longer the thing to do. But going all the way to microservices where you're refactoring everything into a pure cloud native environment, that's not always the best use of your money because it does cost to break things apart, to refactor it, to data slicing and the whole deal. So a lot of times it's what can I bring into containers? Maybe they're a little larger, maybe smaller, but just the fact they're in containers is there's, the Kubernetes can auto scale a lot faster, bring up and down replica sets and so on. And then you can focus on, well, what new thing do I really want to make money at, which then could be a pure cloud native play with microservices. So it's a yes and answer most of the time.
What I hear you saying is just make sure you're making the right decision based on business value. I mean, it's an obvious statement, but particularly when dealing with a monolithic application that's been in existence for some time.
It sounds obvious, but sometimes it's not so obvious because there's a sense of, I've got all this baggage. It's so old. It's so whatever. But there's still pragmatic decisions to make, both in app mod and even AI and data locality and all those things. That it's a balance. It's a balance.
Part two, or whatever. When you're multi-cloud, how do you really avoid all these data egress charges?
That's a good question. Sometimes you don't. Some of our large clients have data centers in various spots that can solve the latency issues. But a lot of it is, let's ask what their customers want. What problems are they trying to solve for their customers? And I mentioned it a bit before, but a lot of them are, I'm in this region, my government has these regulations that I have to comply with. And so sometimes it's saying, we're going to provide an instance for you, a partial data set. We're going to feed more data into it. And wherever that source of truth data is, if it's on premises or in a colo or some sort of thing where there's not as many egress charges, direct egress charges, then that could solve a lot of the problems. Or if it's in a cloud environment, there's great technologies like data virtualization and some of these data mesh capabilities that don't bring over data as a huge mass, but rather brings it over in a refined way. It's filtered, it's anonymized, it's obfuscated, tuned to what the customer actually needs at the time. And then there's caching locally where it doesn't need to go back to the source all the time. So those are some things that are part of the many approaches that are available now.
But how does AI fit in?
It all folds together. So one thing that actually surprises me a bit is many in the industry are thinking, well, this generative AI, we've been talking about AI for 40 years. So I'm sure it's fully baked and ready to go. And it's not. And so it's changing so fast. And so just in a 2-minute summary, one of the things we do to help clients understand what it means to consume AI in an enterprise and deliver it at scale for their customers is we'll talk through 7 things. We'll say, okay, assuming you know your use cases, we can do some pre-work about what use cases do you need based on ROI, return, and so on. So if you have your use cases, let's talk about the AI technology you want to use. Because it's very tempting to just pick the latest change of AI and try to apply it to a problem. But so pick the proper AI technology. And we talk through what are the options. And very quickly, it turns into a data discussion. AI without proper data is really kind of worthless. And what data foundation do you have? How are you creating the highest quality data for that AI to consume? And now with AI agents and all the automation that is happening, we third talk about the applications. Back to monetization. So a new LLM can call functions, use APIs and call existing applications a lot. But if they're old monoliths that can't scale, all of a sudden they're getting 1,000 calls a day from an AI agent, well, that's a problem. So there's those. The fourth one, platform. What platform and integrations are involved? The fifth one, what engineering pipelines do you have to automate delivering the platform, delivering the applications, the data pipeline, the AI pipeline? All of that needs to work in harmony. And that's the sixth one is day two operations. How do you have day two operations? To cover all that, so 6 months from now, when so much has changed in that AI technology, your automations are just handling it. It's a new model. It's a new RAG architecture style. It's new whatever, new application sets. It's all just part of the daily automation. And then finally, but most important, the security, risk, and compliance of not just the AI, but the whole hybrid cloud environment that those are running in. Because there's new threat vectors, there's new all of it that they really need attention.
Do you start with the reference architecture?
We start with what problems are they trying to solve, what excitement do they have, what vision they have. We'll understand their as is, what are they doing today, what's their current environment. But then, yes, we have a number of reference architectures we'll build from and customize based on what the clients are really in tune with. Most of them is a hybrid environment, some on-prem, most of them have multiple clouds, multiple AI sources, and that's what you should do. You should always be experimenting on who has the best thing, what's the best for you.
What is the most common reference architecture you're placing into implementation today?
I think the most common one right now is a RAG architecture where you have some AI assistant or some agent, and we'll have an LLM, a foundation model that's been trained on trustworthy data, which is a whole nother conversation about choosing the right LLM for the use case you want to deliver. Most of the LLMs are trained, but they don't have the latest and greatest information, either because it's private data or just because it was trained X months ago. And so this RAG architecture will then create a vector database or some sort of data store that has that late breaking data. And as a result, the experience for the user is I have a way to have a conversation with my company's private data or my private data using the LLM as a way to create the conversation pieces. And that's usually one of the common ways.
If I'm a customer out there looking to take an application or applications to cloud, maybe I want to instrument generative AI. It's the talk of the day. I want to modernize that application that I just discussed. What are the gotchas or the checklist or the guidance, however you want to frame it, or what is that guidance you'd give to those clients that are listening to this podcast thinking about it?
At a high level, I would start with what are some really, I'm not going to say easy because that's not interesting, but what are some initial use cases you can use internally to make a real difference? So where we work at IBM, we've done a lot of this and we've exposed, we call it client zero, but we've exposed how we have succeeded in doing this. One example, we have a bunch of old raggedy HR apps that we decided let's have an assistant, an Ask HR. It automates thousands of questions and automates actions for all of us. You can learn from it, not just the technology, but the employees can learn to embrace AI. A bit of a tangent. Our infrastructure team, we have 8,000 engineers in our infrastructure team. We needed to get them not only familiar with AI, but thinking how I can improve myself, improve what I do, improve what our customers experience. And so there's a whole practice now, a whole culture of here's a space you can experiment in guardrails so it doesn't cost too much and it doesn't go, it's a safe place. And now we have 8,000 people that are highly tuned in what AI can do, what its challenges are. And it becomes a far more productive environment as we introduce these capabilities internally and now externally.
Anything else you'd like to talk about? Issues of the day.
Issues of the day. One of the issues was how to create really high quality data sets.
That's a great question. How do you create high quality data sets?
So one of the things I did, it was out east a bit ago, had a really interesting discussion. The group of clients were told you've all got hundreds of independent data sources, and you should really start sharing that in a permissioned way. Even if it's confidential, start finding a way to share data to make better decisions. And so what we're creating is an approach to say, first, let's address your data sources. We know there's historical, current, static, dynamic, time series, secret, confidential, all these different kinds of data, and provide the data sources in a way that protects against ransomware, that is resilient. That's like step one. And that's not exciting, but that is kind of the core of things. Of if you have a data set that is vulnerable to ransomware, that's issue number one. And then let's start figuring out a way to share it. And that's where a data mesh comes in. Let's find a way to, we'll call it virtualized data, pull information then it's needed, to anonymize, or based on the user that's using it, give permission for some data, whereas another user might not. So it's a very dynamic, flexible way to create in-memory data sets and actually offer them as data products. Now, doesn't need to be, you need to monetize it or have a marketplace or anything, but these data products are these curated high quality sets that an AI can then consume. Maybe it's in a RAG architecture like we just talked about. Maybe you need your own kind of a variant of a foundation model. There's a new open source tool called InstructLab where you can actually train and add skills and knowledge to an existing LLM. Or you might create your own or fine tune an existing model or create your own model. But if you do it with random sets of data without filtering it, that can be a real problem. And so it's kind of this promotion of harden your data sources, get them secure, create a way to blend and, through this data mesh to virtualize, to bring in from multiple sources into an environment that you can present them as data products for others to consume for AI or other purposes. So that's kind of a high level view.
If people need expertise from Mr. Greg Hintermeister, where should they go?
You can look me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. I have a Medium blog out there, but LinkedIn is probably the most current.
Hey, go get one of those guitars back there. I want to see you play something. Come on, man. Prove to me that you can play something on that guitar.
So I'm gonna first. This is my most interesting one.
What is that?
This is a Dan Armstrong. There was only 300 made between 1970 and 72. And if you look close, it has a sliding pickup. So you can actually, for those in the guitar world, I either want to play, bridge or whatever, neck or bridge pickup. And you can in real time just play and then move the thing, and it sounds so cool. So that's
amazing.
I love.
I've never seen anything like that before.
I got it used if a wonderful, famous guitar place in Wisconsin.
Hey, you didn't play nothing though. Come on, man. You got to play something.
Got to get the one that's in tune.
Oh, okay. That's just there for looks.
Yeah. So the one I usually do is this one, and in fact, we have a show tomorrow, and we'll do covers. I don't know if it's going to get in trouble or not, but this is a cover of Van Halen's Jump, and in a different style. But we play for 3 or 4 hours, so that's
man, you can play. That was pretty good. Do you practice anymore, or you just play? Playing's practicing, but
I practice when I'm learning or creating a mashup. If I'm writing a song, of course, I'm trying to figure out parts, but not as much scales and things right now. So it's always playing.
It's acoustic rock.
Yeah, where we do live, it's more acoustic rock. We'll do 70s, 80s, mostly 80s, some current stuff. If you go on Spotify, it's very different. There's some hard rock stuff. I did a movie soundtrack years ago that was super hard rock.
A movie soundtrack? Was it actually in a movie?
It was, yes, but it's very low budget. So it's, it's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
So it's
all right. Fair enough. But you ever build out a solo from time to time?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's sometimes it's harder on the acoustic. I'll do solos, octave solos, but I also play electric and do, it's a whole lot of fun playing.
You playing bars? Is that what you're playing?
Yeah. Bars, breweries, restaurant, whoever will take us. In the summertime, it's in Minnesota. It's awesome because there's so much outdoors. Our biggest one for like 2,000 people. We opened up for a group. Smallest is like 10. Because that happens sometimes.
All good.
Yeah.
It's 10 more than I do. I'm not even going to talk about myself. Anyway, awesome. Fantastic. Well, it's great chatting with you today, getting to know you a little bit better. Look, your work around the multi-cloud stuff, data, high availability, monolithic applications, man, it's good stuff. And thank you. And users or listeners, I should say, thank you as always. We greatly appreciate it. And we would appreciate a rating if you take the time. And meanwhile, hit us on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Love to get your feedback. Thank you. And we'll see you on the podcast. Bye-bye.